गुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं
साद्वैतं
सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरून् दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर।
Hare Krishna. So let's begin with the Chaitanya Charitamrta Mangalacharana.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya.
So we were in MadhyaLila, chapter 6. We were discussing about the liberation of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. So we saw that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had finally reaches, when he reaches Jagannath Puri and he has darshan of Lord Jagannath, he actually faints in ecstasy. And there was this kind, compassionate soul, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, who protects the Supreme Lord and takes him to his home and gives shelter and starts affectionately dealing with him. So we discussed in the first section that Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya takes Lord Chaitanya to his home, and in the second section about Sārvabhauma arranges for Lord's stay. So the stay arrangement, everything was taken care by him. We were actually in the third section where we were discussing about the talk between Sārvabhauma and the Gopināth. So Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya and Gopināth, they are actually brother-in-law. They share a very intimate relationship. And we saw in the last session that how there was some front and back, some sort of argument, because he was telling that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord. Gopinath was emphasizing that. And Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya was asking for the evidences and proof, and he was not willing to accept that. Hearing that, actually Mukunda and Gopinath gets very upset. And Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya actually says, okay, now you go and invite Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for prasadam. And there he ends that conversations. So we are in that section still, and we will continue from verse number 111. Prasadani tanre kara viksha Parshadasi amare karai shiksha.
Take Jagannath Prasadam and first give it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. After that, come back here and teach me well.
So this is actually Sārvabhauma Bhattācārya. So he is jokingly telling, because Gopinath was trying to teach him and tell him about the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he is jokingly saying, okay, let us finish this discussion now. Go and invite Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First, let us serve him prasadam, him and his associate. And then later you come back and continue your teachings or whatever you are trying to tell me about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We will continue that discussion once you return. Acharya Bhagini Pati Shyala Bhattacārya Ninda Stuti Hasya Siksha Karana Acharya.
Gopinātha Acārya was the brother-in-law of Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya. Therefore, their relationship was very sweet and intimate. Under the circumstances, Gopinātha Acārya taught him by sometimes blaspheming him, sometimes praising him, and sometimes laughing at him. This had been going on for some time. So this sweet relationship and intimate relationship between the Gopinātha Acārya and Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya, because of their familial relationship of being brother-in-law, Gopinātha Acārya taught him in many ways, sometimes by blaspheming, sometimes by praise, and sometimes laughing at him. So this is possible only if the relationship, two people have an intimate relationship, then only these things would work.
Acharya Siddhante Mukunde Raila Santosha
Bhattacārya Vakya Mane Haila Dukha Rosha.
Srila Mukunda Datta felt very satisfied to hear the conclusive statements of Gopinātha Acārya, but he became very unhappy and angry to hear these statements put forward by Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya. So the devotees of the Lord, they are very pleased when they see that others are glorifying the Supreme Lord. So Mukunda Datta, he was a very close, confident, intimate associate of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and he felt very happy to see how Gopinātha Acārya was convinced about the Lord's supremacy. So that gave him so much of joy, and on the contrary, the statements of Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya made him unhappy and angry.
Gosai Rastane Achar Kaila Agmana Bhaṭṭācārya Name Tandre Kaila Nimantrana. According to the instructions of Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya, Gopinātha Acārya went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and invited him on the Bhattacārya's behalf. So because Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya wanted to teach Vedanta-sútra, primarily from the angle that is a very young sannyasi and he should be protected, and he can protect himself if he has the knowledge of Vedanta-sútra and he studies and understands them well, then that will help protect his sannyas dharma. So Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya is very keen to teach Vedanta-sútra to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that's what Gopinātha Acārya went and invited Mahaprabhu on behalf of Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya. And we need to understand that why Gopinātha Acārya and Mukunda Datta were unhappy with Bhattacārya's explanation, because Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya, his ideas or his understanding of Vedanta-sútra were Mayavadi. He was following the interpretations of Shankaracharya, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see in this particular section that how he refutes those that understanding.
Mukunda Sahita Kahe Bhattacārya Katha Bhattacārya Ninda Kare Mane Pana Vyatha. The Bhattacārya statements were discussed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopinātha Acārya and Mukunda Datta disapproved of the Bhattacārya statement because they caused mental pain. So they came and they informed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they described that how they are actually hurt or disturbed by hearing the statements of Bhattacārya.
Shuni Mahaprabhu kahe aiche mat kaha ama prati Bhattacārya bhaya anugraha. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Do not speak like that. Sārvabhauma Bhattācārya has shown great affection and mercy towards me. So we see here that although Bhattacārya, Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya was influenced by Mayavadi philosophy, and that's why he was speaking like this, but otherwise we see that he showed so much of affection and love and mercy towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to reciprocate with that affection. So even if despite whatever Sārvabhauma is speaking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to reciprocate to that, and he was saying that you don't speak like this about him. Amara sannyasa dharma chahe na rakhite vatsalye karuna kare ki dosha ihate.
Out of paternal affection for me, he wants to protect me and see that I follow the regulative principles of a sannyasi. What fault is there in this? So actually, when the first time Sārvabhauma saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had so much of affection and attraction towards the Lord that he goes there, and we remember 2 sessions back we discussed that pastime, that how the guards were coming in Jagannath Puri to chase away Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was in an unconscious condition, and Sārvabhauma goes and interrupts, and he says, he stops the guards and he takes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu home. So he wanted to protect him. Also, when he saw that he is a young sannyasi, he was just 24 years old and he was so beautiful and amazing sannyasi. So he wanted to teach him Vedanta so that he becomes very strongly situated in his principles of sannyas. So that is how actually out of his love and affection, he was trying to nourish and nurture Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu, remembering that, he is telling that he has paternal affection for me and he wants to protect me. So now we will see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how out of his compassion and mercy. So far we saw Sārvabhauma had a lot of affection for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now we will see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his compassion and as a reciprocation to that love of Sārvabhauma, he will convert Sārvabhauma into a Vaishnava.
Aradina Mahaprabhu Bhattacārya Swami Anande Karila Jagannatha Darshane. The next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya together visited the temple of Lord Jagannath. Both of them were in a very pleasant mood. Bhattacārya Sange Tanra Mandire Aila Prabhure Asana Diya Apane Vasila.
When they entered the temple, Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya offered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a seat, while he himself sat down on the floor out of due respect for a sannyasi. So though he was much elder to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in age, and though he was in a way maintaining Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yet he was so respectful towards Mahaprabhu that he gave a seat to him and he sat down on floor.
And if you saw the beginning of this session, we had a picture. In that picture, we could see that how Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya was sitting actually on the floor and Mahaprabhu was given a seat, elevated seat to sit. Vedanta padhaite tabe arambha karila sneha bhakti kari kichu prabhure kahila. He then began to instruct Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu on Vedanta philosophy, and out of affection and devotion, he spoke to the Lord as follows. So here, Srila Prabhupada notes that the sannyasi must study and read Vedanta-sútra or Brahma-sutra, which are written by Srila Vyasadeva. And why they should study Vedanta? Because it is Vedanta or the conclusions of the Vedic truths. So a sannyasi, what is a sannyasi? He has rejected or he has given up everything material, all material connections. Why? So that he can advance spiritually. So therefore it is very natural, if you want to advance spiritually, he should know the Vedic truths. The only problem here is that there is, he will get influenced by Shankaracharya's commentary, Sharirika Bhashya, and they develop impersonal understanding or Mayavadic understanding of the Vedic scriptures, so which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will set right.
Vedanta
Shravanaye sannyasira dharma nirantara karatumi Vedanta Shravana.
The Bhattacārya said, hearing Vedanta philosophy is a sannyasi's main business. Therefore, without hesitation, you should study Vedanta philosophy, hearing it without cessation from a superior person. So there are few things which he is telling here. One, he is talking about the glories of the Vedanta philosophy, and he is telling that how it is important for a sannyasi to completely study Vedanta philosophy. So a sannyasi should not be a sentimentalist. He should be very well versed with the philosophy. So that is one thing he said. And then secondly, he is telling that you must study Vedanta philosophy. How you must study? Hearing it without cessation from a superior person. So this knowledge you have to receive from somebody who's senior to you, who understands that, and you must hear it continuously. So you should not take any breaks and you must absorb. So basically without cessation means absorbing our consciousness. So nirantar, constantly hear from a superior. So Sārvabhauma Bhattācārya was actually trying to convert Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken sannyas in a Vaishnava sampradaya, and Sārvabhauma Bhattācārya was a Mayavadi. So we have discussed this difference between Vaishnava and Mayavadi. More elaborately we will be discussing, or rather hearing directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the upcoming verses.
Prabhu kahe more tumi karugraha sei se kartavya tumi ye more kaha. Lord Chaitanya replied, you are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order. So here we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeling so obligated, he is feeling so dutiful, that because you have been so caring, so loving, so affectionate, so merciful to me, so it becomes my duty that I should obey your order. Although we see that Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya was actually a grahastha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi, so ashram wise he was superior to Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya, but he was taking instructions from a lower ashrama. Sat dina paryantai che kare na shravane bhala manda nahi kaye vasi matra shune.
Thus, for 7 days continuously, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listened to the Vedanta philosophy expounded by Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say anything and did not indicate whether it was right or wrong. He simply sat there and listened to the Bhattacārya. So as Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya told him that you must hear this without cessation from a superior, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with rapt attention, he sat in front of him and he followed what Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya has told. But interestingly enough, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not giving any response or any reaction. That whether he is agreeing with it, whether he is disagreeing, whether there is some doubt, whether there is some confusion. So he just sat there and he heard without giving any indication of his understanding of what Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya was trying to teach him.
Ashtama divase tanre puche Sārvabhauma satadina kara tumi Vedanta Shravana. On the 8th day, Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have been listening to Vedanta philosophy from me continuously for 7 days. Malamandanahi kahara maunadhari bhuja ki na bhuja iha bhujite na pari.
You have simply been listening, fixed in your silence. Since you do not say whether you think it is right or wrong, I cannot know whether you are actually understanding Vedanta philosophy or not. So Sārvabhauma is raising a question.
Prabhu kahe murkha ami nahi adhyayana tomara agyate matra kariye shravana.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I am a fool and consequently I I do not study the Vedanta-sútra. He's saying, Murkha ami nahi adhyayan. I cannot do adhyayan, or I cannot study Vedanta. Why? Because I'm a fool. I'm just trying to hear it from you because you have ordered me.
Sannyasi dharma lagi shravan matra kari, tumi yehi artha kara bujite na pari. Only for the sake of executing the duties of the renounced order of sannyas do I listen. Unfortunately, I cannot in the least understand the meaning you are presenting. So first he said, because you ordered me, that's why I listened to you. Then he's saying here that because I'm in sannyas ashram and as obligated by this ashram, executing the duties of sannyas ashram, I am listening to you. But he's saying, unfortunately, but I cannot understand what you are saying. I cannot understand the meaning. The way you are explaining these Vedanta-sútra, that is not, I'm not able to understand. Bhujite na pari.
Bhaṭṭācārya
kahe na bhuji, na jnana yara, bhuji bare lagi seha, bhuje punarbhara.
So Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, like a teacher, he's telling, I accept that you do not understand, yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. So imagine you are teaching, let's say you're teaching your child or you're teaching some students, and they are neither asking nor saying anything. They are just completely, quietly just listening. So when they are saying that because I am stupid or I don't have enough intelligence and I could not understand. So Sārvabhauma is saying what we would say. That, okay, so if you don't understand, at least ask. So why you are not asking? Tumi shuni shuni raha mauna matra dhori hridaye ke aache toma bhujite na pari.
You are hearing again and yet you keep silent. I cannot understand what is actually within your mind. So this is very flummoxing the mind of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. He's not even understand, because there's no reaction coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has taught again and again. He's teaching, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is silent. Prabhu kahe sutre rartha bhujiye nirmala tomara vakya tumi manahayata vikala.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then revealed his mind saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanations have simply agitated my mind. So what is happening is like how here we are reading the mantra and then we are giving some explanation. So like that Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, he was reading the Vedanta-sútras, the exact Sanskrit verses, and he was giving the explanation. Now this explanation is from Sripad Shankaracharya's Sharirak Bhashya. So that commentary on Vedanta-sútra is called Sharirak Bhashya. So from there he was giving the explanations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that the mantras what you are speaking, the sutras what you are speaking, it's very clear. I don't have any problem. But the explanations what you are giving, it's disturbing to my mind. I do not understand what you are speaking.
Sutrerartha bhashya kahe prakashiya, tumi bhashya kaha sutrerartha acārya. The meaning of the aphorisms in the Vedanta-sútra contain clear purports in themselves, but other purports you presented simply cover the meaning of the sutras like a cloud. So, if sun is shining, we can see the sun and we can see everything else very, very clearly. But if the clouds come in between, then we are not able to perceive the sun. Similarly, the Vedanta-sútras, they were like the sun. They were very clear in what they mean. So there was no confusion when we hear Vedanta-sútra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very clear with the meaning. But Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya's explanations to those Vedanta-sútra were like the clouds which covered the sun. So, that part was, that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving an explanation here of that. So, these Mayavadi philosophers, so Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya unfortunately was very influenced by the Mayavadi philosophy. So they would cover the sunshine of the clouds of interpretations, which were imagined by Shankaracharya and his followers. So that was the problem. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quiet, because Vedanta-sútra is clear, but his explanation, what is this? You're just covering it and you're, confusing it. Sutrira mukyarthana vyakhyana kalpanate tumi taha karachadana.
You do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma-sutras. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover their real meaning. So when asked, so till this time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quiet, but when asked, he is speaking straight from his heart what he experienced. So he is saying that you are covering the meaning, you are not giving the direct meaning, and it seems that your purpose, you are intentionally covering the real meaning of the sutras.
So this is the huge problem with the Mayavadis. They do not take the direct meaning. Even in Bhagavad Gita, when Mayavadis will comment on Bhagavad Gita, they will not take the direct meaning of the verses. What Krishna is saying, they refuse to accept the direct meaning, and they will give some explanation which covers the original meaning of the verse. Upanishad shabde ye mukhya artha haya sei artha mukhya vyasa sutre sabakaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Vedanta-sútra is the summary of all the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishads is also recorded in the Vedanta-sútra or the Vyasa-sútra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving a proper understanding. So we have the Vedas, we have the philosophical aspects of the Vedas contained in the Upanishads, and further the Upanishads, the essence of the Upanishads is presented in Vedanta-sútra. So Vedanta-sútra is the summary of all the Upanishads. So whatever the Upanishads, the direct pointers or the direct knowledge which the Upanishads give, they are contained as it is directly in Vedanta-sútra also. So they do not require some indirect explanation. Mukhya artha kara gauna kalpana abhida vritti chari kara shabde lakshana.
For each sutra, the direct meaning must be accepted without interpretation. However, you simply abandon the direct meaning and proceed with your imaginative interpretation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is again bringing the point that the sutra indicates directly that direct meaning is there, but you are just not dealing with the direct meaning and you are pushing through your own imagination through those verses.
So sometimes you can experience this. We may have made such mistake earlier in our own lives that there is some verse and we are trying to give some explanation. But anyways, you would come across people, they will read Mahabharata or they will read Bhagavad Gita and they will give some explanation from their imagination for those verses. So that is completely rejected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's saying whatever the verses are there, we must take the direct meaning. Pramanera madhya shruti pramana pradhana shruti ye mukhyartha kahe se pramana. Although there is other evidence, the evidence given in the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. Vedic versions understood directly are first class evidence. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not talking about the evidence. There are different kinds of evidences which are presented, but among all types of evidence, Vedic statements or Vedic version or Vedic evidences are considered to be the foremost. Pramana Pradhan. Pramana Madhya Shruti Pramana Pradhan. So Shruti or the Vedic Praman, they are considered to be the best or the most important. And what then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that these Vedic truths, they should be taken directly. Mukhya artha kai sei se pramana. So directly their meaning should be taken, and that is considered as the best or first class evidence. So sometimes what happens, we need to understand that we are not perfect. The Vedic literature is perfect, we are not perfect. So when we take a Vedic truth and we try to give it some explanation, some meaning from our own understanding, our own imagination, then there is a problem, because Vedas are perfect, but we are not perfect. We sometimes make mistakes, we are sometimes illusioned, we have tendency to cheat, we have imperfect senses. So all these problems, so when we try to give our explanation, our meaning, then then we are actually covering the real evidence from the Vedas. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not accepting the explanations of Sārvabhauma Bhattācārya. Jiverasti vishtha shankha gomaya shruti vakya se dui mahapavitraya.
Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving some examples also to make us understand. So he is saying that conch shell and cow dung are nothing but the bone and stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. So we would hear the Vedic scriptures and it talks about that how the bones or the cow or the stool, it is contaminating, it is impure. If anyone by mistake also touches such things, then he is expected to purify himself by taking bath. So he is telling that bone and stool, it is untouchable. And yet conch shell and cow dung, though it comes in the same category, but yet the Vedic version, they are considered to be very pure. So now if we use our imagination to understand these statements, so there is a difficulty. And that is why Veda Vakya, or the statements of the scriptures, are to be expected as it is, without dilution, without interpretation, without twisting the meaning of the sutras.
Imagine conch shells we use for deity worship. The most purest of all places, the altar and the deities, we use conch shell, one for blowing, we use another conch shell for bathing the deities, and cow dung also for cleaning, purifying. For purifying, yes. For all the homas, cow dung is necessary.
Svataha pramana veda satya ekaya lakshana karile svata pramanya anihaya.
The Vedic statements are self-evident. So this is very, very important for us to understand this statement. The Vedic statements are self-evident. Swataha praman. Veda satya ekaya. Whatever is stated there must be accepted. We must accept as it is. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada mentions, or he titles the translation and the purports of Bhagavad Gita as Bhagavad Gita as it is, Yatha Roop, Unmay Urvil. If we interpret according to our own imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. And that is very natural. Just now we saw that we are not perfect. We are imperfect. So if we are trying to give some explanation from our own imagination and from our own understanding, then we will spoil this, the Vedic evidence. Vyasa-sutrirarthayaiche surya-kirana swakalpita bhashya meghe kare achadana.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Brahma-sutra compiled by Srila Vyasadeva is as radiant as the sun. One who tries to interpret its meaning simply covers that sunshine with a cloud. So for sunshine, we do not, there is a saying that there is no need to show any light to the sunlight because it is so bright and radiant. So we don't have to add anything to the sunlight. It is complete in itself. And if I am trying to add some meaning to that, then it is like the cloud covering the sunshine.
Veda Purane kahe Brahma nirupana se Brahma brahad vastu Ishvara lakshana all the Vedas and literatures that strictly follow the Vedic principles, Veda, Puran. So Vedas and Puran, the literature that strictly follows the Vedic principles, explain, what does it explain? That the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. So this is where the whole problem was. When Sārvabhauma Bhattacārya was translating, was reading the Vedanta-sútra, no problem, but when he was translating and giving his own meaning, he was not accepting the personal supreme feature of the Lord. He was not accepting the Bhagwan. He was just, wherever the Vedanta-sutras were referring to the personal form of the Lord, he was just covering it up and he was saying, no, impersonal. That, the Brahma Jyoti, that is the highest, that is the greatest. From that everything came, and he was not accepting the supreme form of the Lord. So here it is mentioned, this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining him, that actually that Supreme Brahman or the effulgence of the Lord, which you are saying is greatest of all, which is mentioned in the Vedas as greatest, is actually but a feature of the Supreme Lord or Brahman.
So with this, I think today we will stop the session here. As some of you are aware that I had a surgery and I'm yet recovering. So we don't want to strain a lot. So we will stop here and we will continue in the next session.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.